There's a saying that many people are familiar with, and it goes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. The left thinks they can fool us over and over and over again, and that there will be no consequences. The left, they have vastly underestimated the mental acuity of the average conservative in this country, and also the willingness of many of us to fight for what is really important. What I want to talk about is how the left has gotten us all to this point and really has a lot more people than even just their supporters seemingly under their thumb. We're going to jump into all of that today because there's so much to talk about, and I've been spending so much time trying to get this information together so I can prepare my thoughts so I can speak to y'all. But I want this to be a place where you can count on coming and walking away feeling encouraged, because there is still much to look forward to. When you think about what the left has done over the last several years, you have to think about the quote from Jim Morrison, the American playwright, who said, "Whoever controls the media controls the mind." What we know is that the left always preys on the common denominator of their base, which unfortunately is abject stupidity. We know this is a fact, but it's unfortunate that the left has gotten to a point now, and even those who are in bed with the left, I'm looking at you, Fox News, they have gotten us to this point where we have so many conservatives who really do love this country already throwing in the towel. And they do that by demoralizing you and manipulating the rules around what words actually mean. What I mean by that is the left has gone so far as to take abortion, which by definition is the murder of an unborn human child. They've gone so far as to now couch that as healthcare. And their base bought it. Our base didn't. But where it gets worse is when the left has gotten to a point now where they think that they are the gods of the politics universe. There's a reason why certain posts on Facebook, you're all seeing it, I know you are getting fact checked. Oh, this is missing context over here. Oh, we added a disclaimer to your post over there. And it always seems to happen on the conservative side of the aisle when we're just trying to expose and speak the truth. The reason for that is they have effectively narrowed the funnel through which information is allowed to spread by their mandates and by their dictates, and they dare you to call them out on it. And if you call them out on it, you know you're at risk of your account being shadow banned, censored, just taken away altogether. And that's the new battle plan for them, and it has been for quite some time. But what the left also wants you to do is to listen to what they tell you and not believe your own eyes, not believe your own ears. And I know this for a fact because it happened to me over 5 years ago when Trump was giving his announcement speech in June of 2015. I remember I was working from home that day, and I was laying on my couch. I had my laptop on my lap, and I was just doing work and listening to the announcement because I knew it was coming. People had been talking about, oh, this is a stunt. He's not really going to jump in the race. It's just for publicity. And I was like, let me just, see what this sideshow is going to be. That was my mentality going into it. And I went from laying on my back on my couch to when Trump was done speaking, I was sitting up, just leaning forward, laptop to the side. I was dialed in because what I remember is telling my older brother, and he can corroborate all this. I told him shortly thereafter, I said, that's not what I'm used to hearing. He's going to win this. And the reason I had that reaction is because for so long we'd become accustomed to hearing politicians speak to us a certain way and then turn around and stab us in the back when they attain the power that they seek. And the next day, when I turned on the news again, I heard CNN specifically say that Trump said that all Mexicans were rapists. And at that point, I kind of scratched my head a bit. I said, wait, I listened to that speech live. I was right there. I heard it with my own eyes. The same way they're doing this now. I said I heard that with my own eyes. I mean, I heard that with my own ears. You know what I mean? The same concept is being applied right now. They're telling you to look at all of these massive avalanches of voter fraud from sea to shining sea and tell you you're crazy for acknowledging it or even daring to share information about it. It's because they think they have this chokehold on the American people, and we've seen them try to ascend to this de facto godlike status where they are the ones who make the calls. They're the ones who tell you who's up. They're the ones who tell you who's down. How are we expected to pay attention to and accept their word as fact when they're the same entity that for the last 4+ years, has been calling Trump a racist, been calling him a homophobe, who've been accusing him of things that Obama and Biden were responsible for, who were calling us deplorables, who were calling us racial pejorative epithets all day, every day. And now, after all of that, when they claimed Russian collusion, Ukrainian collusion, let's impeach him over that, nothing stuck. And they hate that. And what they hate more is that we stuck with him through all that. But now is the next phase of their plan for complete and total mental manipulation. What they want you to do right now, the reason you're hearing, oh, Biden's up here, looks like it's too far away for Trump to catch up now, they're doing this because they want you to be demoralized. Plain and simple. It is not that hard to figure out what the real agenda is if you are truly and fully awake. And the reason they're doing that is because we already know the angle they're going to go with afterwards. We're already seeing it play out. They want you to be demoralized. They want to kick you when you're down. And then we've already got members of the left gearing up, specifically AOC, who has been saying that they want to come up with truth and reconciliation boards or panels or something, which essentially is a nice way to say reform or concentration camp for those who supported President Trump or who helped him with his campaign, or worse, they want to literally, and they've had people on Twitter saying this, people who have hundreds of thousands of followers say, we want to get a list of all of Trump supporters so they cannot be a part of polite society ever again. They're overplaying their hand at this point. And what they want you to do is say, okay, well, this is the reality. Maybe if I just roll over and cry real hard and bend over to them, they'll be nice to me. And you know damn well that's not the case. You know damn well they've been telegraphing this punch for even over 4 years. You know damn well they have been working overtime to steal this election. You know it. It's just a fact at this point. We've already had so much information come out, specifically in Michigan. Sidney Powell, I believe, she was the one who most recently told us about the election machine glitch, which is kind of funny how the election machine glitch always seems to benefit Joe Biden and hurt Trump. Think about this. You have to understand how stupid the left thinks you are and their cronies in the mainstream media. They think that they can sit there and have these votes magically appear in the middle of the night. They think that all of these anomalies can happen that only benefit Biden and hurt Trump. And we're sitting here 3 days plus beyond election night at this point. And they're going to keep doing this. Now, I could argue, I could see this argument. I could see you say, these few machines, they had an error and they're trying to fix the error. You know that's not the case. These machines, we're already looking at pretty much 47 more counties in Michigan right now who are looking at possibly having to have a recount. And trust me, we're going to get a recount. Trust me there. But it's because all these anomalies are spread across an enormous scale that is statistically impossible. And the left, they like to think that we're stupid people, but there's a lot of smart people on our side too. And when you just look at the numbers, without even being a statistician per se, you can tell when something is up. And the thing that's different about conservatives compared to those on the left is that if this was happening to President Trump to benefit him, even conservatives would be like, hey, hold up, man, this isn't right. Because the whole point of this whole vote by mail thing, the reason they pushed it so hard and were campaigning, making marketing videos about it and all, is because they wanted to normalize the concept and they wanted to get you very accustomed to it. There were all these disclaimers across all social media, I don't care what social media you were on, saying voting by mail has never been shown to be susceptible to large amounts of voter fraud. That's not proven. That's not true. And they said all that so they could inculcate their base to believe that. So that now, when we're seeing all this happen, well, they said, well, the media, big tech, they told me that this is trustworthy and they never lie to me. And it's because they're the same people who have been buying the lie they've been selling them day after day after day after day after day. It's unfortunate to see how many Democrat supporters hate Trump so much, they will literally blind themselves to irrefutable evidence just because they hate the man that much. at some point you have to figure out, okay, even if you do want to win, even if you do want to cheat, at least attempt to make it look believable. And there are models, mathematical formulas that you can apply to these numbers we're seeing magically appear in the middle of the night because of the blue fairy showed up overnight around 4 a.m. in these swing states only to shift the tide. There's a concept, and this is something that smart people, far smarter than me, have been running numbers on now, called Benford's Law. It has to do with the distribution of leading numbers, if you will. And what's interesting about this, and you can Google it, BENFORDS law. What it is, it's a model that has been shown to be fairly accurate in analyzing large sets of data to figure out, okay, well, does this variance look right? Does this trend line look right? What's interesting is that if you apply Benford's law to the votes that Donald Trump has gotten in these swing states, what you'll notice is they are very close to what you would expect. Obviously, there is some variance, but Joe Biden's are the ones where you're seeing on an actual graph chart where it should look like more like a curve. We're seeing a spike here, a spike here, a spike here, a spike here for Joe Biden, and that is mathematically and statistically damn near impossible. The odds of these votes that are showing up magically and being added to Joe Biden's vote tally are, those being legitimate, the odds of that are 1 in 10 to the 23rd power, or 1 in 1 septillion. That is impossible. If you wanted to cheat, at least do it well, so you don't get caught. But the reason the left is so brazen now, literally in broad daylight, putting up cardboard so you can't see into the election count facility, keeping the poll watchers far, far away, or kicking the poll watchers out if they don't like what party they're affiliated with. The reason they're doing all that is because they know they're cheating. The only reason you don't want someone in the room with you when you are counting votes is because you don't want them to see what you're doing to those votes. And that's the reason, though, why the Supreme Court most recently ordered that those votes that rolled in after 8 p.m. on Election Day in Pennsylvania are going to be pulled to the side and reviewed and recounted. That is a good sign. What doesn't feel good, though, for conservatives, and I know this is the case, what doesn't feel good is when now we're essentially at the equivalent of when you're in a football game. When you're in the fourth quarter, there's 1 second left, you run your final play, and the play looks like it didn't work out, and it looks like you're going to lose the game. But there's a penalty flag that's thrown because the other side, the other team, encroached or was offsides or so on and so forth. So essentially then, that's a decision that has to go to the officials to review. And guess where we are right now? The referees, the officials, in this case the Supreme Court, are going to have to review this. The reason conservatives are nervous about this is because, unfortunately, some of the justices that we think that we have on our side, and make no mistake, the Supreme Court should be a nonpartisan judiciary. They should be applying the Constitution as it's written to the cases that they see. But we've gotten to a point with our politics where even the Supreme Court has become polarized, where anyone that a conservative is going to pick is going to honor more traditional values as it relates to the Constitution. And not to say that their opinions are going to leak into their judgments, as they should not, but it's to say that you understand how someone reads the Constitution and how they interpret what those words mean. And over time, unfortunately, we have seen some who are ostensibly those who would interpret the law the way those of us who are conservatives do. We've seen them, unfortunately, seem to recant or thumb their nose at the party that they are supposed to be more ideologically aligned with. Specifically, John Roberts. He is one that has been deemed to be very untrustworthy over time. If you think about it, the reason the left was so against Amy Coney Barrett getting in office, let's expand our thought process for a minute. The reason the left was so staunchly against Amy Coney Barrett being confirmed to the Supreme Court, the reason they were literally screaming at the sky when they found out RBG, when she passed away, was because they had to have already known that what they were about to try to pull off was going to the highest court in the land, because it was that egregious. They had to know that. And that's why they stood against her then. And the onus now is on, like I said before, the referees to decide the outcome of the game. Now, we all know in the sports world what happens when a referee decides a game. There is always going to be contentious debate around their decision. depending on which team you're pulling for. That is the reason you've seen so many cities already boarding up, already getting ready, because at the end of this legal battle, and there will be a legal battle, trust me, if there's one thing I know about Donald Trump is that he's not going to roll over and quit to these people who are trying to perpetrate a presidential heist at this time. They know that they are about to tip off and strike the match for riots like this country has not seen before. There's a reason they have been normalizing the concept of rioting. There's a reason they've been saying, these are just peaceful protests. Oh, it's just a peace. Oh, there's no violence here whatsoever. Literally standing in front of burning buildings. It's because they know that their base is watching. And their base is really good at doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's the definition of insanity, because these people are insane at this point. You have to feel bad for some of these individuals. These are the people who are so intellectually dishonest that they'll sit there and say, oh, well, if Trump had done a better job with COVID-19, we wouldn't have to wear the masks, then we wouldn't have to worry about mail-in voting. Do you really think the average leftist would have agreed with any tack President Trump chose to take for COVID-19, something that came here from China, mind you? That is such a dishonest statement on its face, because you're operating off the supposition that you would have actually listened to the president if he'd done things differently. And you know that's not true. If you were honest with yourself, you know that's not true. But you hate this man so much, you will literally twist your world to give credence to why you behave the way you do. Think about these rioters who are out here. The people who riot whenever a black person, usually a black criminal who doesn't listen to orders, is shot and killed by the police. They're not thinking about that black person. They're just like, whatever, that happens in our communities all the time. And it does, and it's very sad, but they don't care about that. What they think about is, this is my chance to get the 5-finger discount from my local big box retail store. And they do it. You're not seeing them go out and grab job applications. You're seeing them go out and grab new flat screen TVs. We're seeing them get sophisticated now. There's a video that I saw recently where one of them was running around. He had a dolly and he had a whole washing machine that he decided he was going to loot. He's going to get him some clean clothes after this. It defies conventional logic why people would act this way unless you understood that they are opportunistic to their core. That even ties back into COVID-19. COVID-19 was something that the left knew they could seize upon in order to enact this grandiose plan of theirs. There's a reason that even back in March and April, I started talking about, oh, we might need to, lock down and just stay in your home 15 days slow the spread, that even though that was 200 days ago now. Don't worry about that. We don't want you to kill grandma and go get your hair cut, even though grandma has a 94.6% chance of surviving from COVID-19 based on the CDC's own data. And I want you to go back and watch this again and look up what I'm saying, and you need to understand what's going on if you don't already. The good thing about the left going so far this time is because this is the wake-up call a lot of people needed to have, unfortunately, on our side. There's a lot of people in the conservative movement, love them to death, and they love this country, but who, up until this point, have not taken it upon themselves to take tangible action beyond getting in arguments online, which we all know doesn't work with the left because they're already brain dead and written off at this point. Beyond all of that, we're talking about the next step. We're talking about actually putting skin in the game and boots on the ground. This is what we're talking about at this point. And I'm encouraged because, as many of y'all I'm sure know, and I posted this to my page earlier today, tomorrow, all across this country, at every single state capital in this country, all 50 states, there are people organizing to go to their state capital at noon local time to show their support for the president and to demand that there is integrity in our elections. It's really interesting, speaking of integrity, how the left talks constantly about integrity. Oh, we care about the people. Oh, count every vote. Oh, do this, do that. Oh, this is for your safety. Wear the mask. It's one thing after another. It's extra layers. The snowball is getting so large, you almost can't stop it at this point. And a lot of people on our side really believe that, oh, well, maybe if I just roll over and cry and wring my hands and say, oh, all is lost. Maybe if I do that now and concede defeat, maybe the left will be nicer to me. You know damn well they're not going to be nicer to you. You know damn well that is a fact. And I have a bone to pick with a lot of these GOP politicians right now who are real quiet, sitting there, who aren't willing to go to bat, go to metaphorical war for this president, this last bastion and champion of true Americana and true freedom that we have. And they're sitting there all quiet after they rode his coattails to get to where they want to be. There need to be consequences for that, because that behavior is simply inexcusable. When you're sitting here and you're watching this fraud go on a massive scale, and you sit there and you do nothing because you're afraid of ruffling the wrong feathers, I don't want you representing me, because that is not who America is. That's not how we got to where we are right now. We got to how we are where we are right now because we had warriors, people who were willing to do whatever it took to get the job done, people who were willing to stand and fight when they knew the odds were stacked incredibly widely against them. There was a reason that at the Battle of Bunker Hill, the order was given to not fire, hold your fire until you see the whites of their eyes. That was the order that was given when the British were advancing on the revolutionaries who were fighting. And we're seeing way more than the whites of the left's eyes right now. Let me tell you, they are literally right here in front of our face saying, hey, guess what we're doing? Look, do you see it? Do you see it? And this should be the trigger point for individuals to realize they are not going to stop. They're going to continue to advance. They're going to keep trying to steal things moving forward. And if you think, oh, we'll get them next time, there's not going to be a next time. If they get in power, they're already talking, AOC and others, already talking about, we should get a list together of all the people who supported Trump and all people who worked on his campaign and make sure they're not part of polite society ever again. And they said that publicly. They are telegraphing this punch from miles and miles away. And that is why it's time for action. It's time for you to potentially inconvenience yourself a little bit in order to save and preserve what is left of this country. Now, tomorrow is the weekend. Tomorrow is Saturday. Lots of people are off on the weekends, right? At this point, if you've done nothing else but sit at home over these last few days and complain and cry and whine about how unfair things are and that's it, I want you to come up with a plan. I want you to figure out, okay, well, how can I do something even in my area? If the state capital is too far away, okay, organize something in your own town. We know how to communicate, and we can use the left's own tools against them. But it's up to us to take up that mantle of personal responsibility and actually get the job done. You don't have any excuses anymore. I'm sorry. If you're not willing to have the spirit of the Minutemen, who in the Revolutionary War were ready to go at a moment's notice to defend their country, you got to ask yourself why that is. You got to ask yourself what you're afraid of. You got to ask yourself if it's going to be worth the cost. And it will be if you truly love America. But you cannot afford to be a keyboard warrior anymore if that's all you have done for these last 4 years. Because the left is not going to stop. They will continue to strip away your liberties one by one, as we've seen, until there's nothing left. That was the whole point of this mask mandate to begin with. They're like, oh, just wear the mask. Oh, this is for your safety. And they always make it sound like it's something that's good for you too, right? It's like, oh, just be safe. Don't be selfish. Who wants to be selfish, right? Nobody wants to be selfish, so people want to comply with that. And there have been some conservatives, like I'm looking at you, Greg Abbott, who have decided to sign on with that and say, okay, the left wins. I'll tell my state to do this too, even though I know it's not really effective, even though I know that the CDC said thus and such. I'm going to go against that because I think that wearing a mask is a way to virtue signal. This is a gut check and a very rude awakening. And if we don't actually wake up, wipe the sleep from our eyes, and see the world around us clearly, it will crumble. And it will be no one's fault but our own. I want you to stay encouraged right now. I know it looks like the cards were stacked against us, but people were saying it was impossible for Trump to be elected, and he's been a president for 4 years. People have thrown everything at him, and he still perseveres. If this is the least that you can do, is to take some time to go to one of these Stop the Steal protests in your city, or organize your own, or organize a show of support in some sort, we need it to happen. Because the left wants you to think that 70 million plus people voted for Joe Biden Well, that's more votes than Obama got in 2008, by the way, in case you were wondering. They want you to think that he's the most popular, the most votes of all time were cast for Joe Biden. Do you really believe that for one damn second? If you do, I'm sorry, but stay on the sidelines at this point. We need fighters and warriors now who have the spirit and wherewithal to do what needs to be done. If we want to save this country, we have to be willing to actively defend it. And it's being stolen out from under us right now. If you live here in America, if you were born somewhere else and came to America and became a citizen, if you are here right now, in this time, in all of human history, you have won the lottery. There is no better time to be in America than right now. There is so much potential that we have not yet realized, but if we don't take action, we will never realize it, and the left will make sure we never get the chance to realize that ever again. That is their plan. It's called a color revolution. Look it up. The writing's on the wall. Take action. Get in the game. There are people right now who I know are still upset and they're still morose and still melancholy. The time for that is past. And the thing is, there are people who've been warning you of this for years. I think about people like Alex Jones over at InfoWars. I think about people like Owen Schroyer at InfoWars. Owen made a really good point earlier today. He's talking about these votes coming in. He said, flip a coin 130,000 times and have it land on heads every single time. We know that's impossible. That's what the left is telling you to believe. But those are the individuals who were the real pioneers and the real trailblazers who got written off as conspiracy theorists. Well, guess what? A stopped clock is right twice a day. It is not right 70, 80% of the time. They have been telling you what's going to happen for a very, very long time. And there's a reason that they got deplatformed in the first place. There is this fear. I know it's there because you see it in how some of the influencers in the community act. They're, I don't know if I should say this because I might get my platform taken away from me. I can't say this because then other conservatives might tell me I'm crazy or whatever. Well, you know what? When someone is telling you something and it comes true, once or twice, you could say, that's just some, it's just random. It just happens. When it happens over and over and over and over and over again, we've had people on InfoWars. We have Alex Jones telling you about forced inoculations 20 years ago. Believe me, I'm mad at myself for not jumping in the game sooner. Because I didn't even start being vocal until a few years ago. That's on me. That's my fault. But if there's anyone else out there, it's not too late. You can just start something. Doesn't have to be professional. Just start it. Just do something. Please, I am literally begging you at this point to stand up for this country that has so much potential. That's all we have to do. We know this is going to court. We know what that's going to look like. And that's okay. And God is in control with that. It's okay. But God does tell us to pray, but he also says we need to take action. And it's time for us to take action. So I want to encourage y'all to do that. Those of you out there who are still struggling, just know that we're getting through this together. It's a roller coaster, and it's also a marathon at the same time. I want you to take heart, be encouraged, because the story's not over yet. And as you're starting to see already, narratives are starting to change because more information is coming to light and knowledge is power. So I love you guys. Thank y'all so much for joining me for another live. This is something I'm trying to do every night for you guys, and it is not easy working a full-time job, doing this at the same time, but I do my best to bring the information to you guys. Like I said again, tomorrow is actually my birthday. I don't know if I mentioned that before. I turn 29 years old tomorrow, and I have no plans. My plan is to work to create content that is going to hopefully open up eyes, because as you know, that clock is about to run out. It's ticking real fast. And if giving up part of your day, like I said before, is the least you can do, it's better than nothing. And we need that. So I love all of you guys. Thank you so much. I will post this to my page so anybody else can watch. Be encouraged, stay prayed up, and I will catch you later.